Uh, okay, great. So if you go to the wiki page associated with this call, we have a few items there, like four. The first one is review of last week's to do. The second one is patient matching module issues, which is going to be addressed by Alfayo, and Michael is not here, unless, unfortunately, Michael Dow, not Michael Downey. And then we have modification of HFE, and then I'll share some progress on the dashboard I'm making. So since Bark, I think you said you are gonna leave this call and join another one in about half an hour from now. I guess we should start with the one which involves you, which is modification of HFE module to self-submitted forms before. Okay, I think I wrote something. Anyway, yeah. So you want to say something, Bark?
Yeah. So I think this one. For this one, I think what we need to do is probably start a conversation. We should see if there's already a ticket for it, and start a conversation on the OpenRIS dev list with Mark Goodrich, who oversees the HTML form entry module. I've already chatted with him about adding this feature. He and Darius are aware of it, and we've kind of talked about it. They've even been kind of thinking about how they could implement it. So I think if we're able to either do a little bit of the work or just be another party interested in it to help direct a community dev or somebody to do it for us, I think Mark would appreciate the help. So what I would suggest is that we is emailing I think if like, for example, Willa, if you emailed the dev list and say, hey, Mark, we've been talking about embracing HTML form entry at AMPATH, and one of the features we would like to see added to it, or an enhancement we'd like to see, is the ability to have some stored artifact that can be replayed. And is there a ticket for this already? And just start the conversation there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we could do that. But so does that mean, because actually what I had in mind about this is the way we want to implement that. But since we have to take it to the community, I guess it's not productive to have that discussion here.
Yeah, I think having a discussion of how to implement that without Mark Goodrich as part of that conversation is probably not a good use of our time.
Okay. In that case, then I guess I'll take that up. I'll initiate that discussion on the dev list. I'll specifically mention, you said Mark and Darius, right?
Yeah, but Mark is the one to call out. So I think if you just email the dev list and say, hey, Mark, AMPATH is embracing, we'd like to have he knows, he's already heard about the notion of being able to store some artifact that could be replayed later if needed. And we'd like to see that added. Is there a ticket for that yet? And just that opener will start the conversation, and I think it will quickly jump into, okay, here's, if there isn't a ticket, we'll create it, or if there is a ticket, they might already have some implementation ideas on it. My guess is there won't be a ticket, and that thread, we can create the ticket and throw around a couple implementation ideas, and then it will be pretty clear what needs to get done.
Does the HTML form entry use REST?
No.
It just seems like a shame. It seems like we're going to do the exact same thing twice. Or we're looking for the same thing twice, right? We want a REST thing that stores artifacts, and we want this to store artifacts. It's too bad there isn't some way of harmonizing it so that we only have to do it once.
Yeah, I think probably the reason for, I agree, and I think in the long run, having, storing an encounter in REST, having that replayable is probably will serve us as much or more in the long run. I think my sense is that implementing this for HTML form entry is really going to be a relatively small amount of code. Most of the effort will be not in what to store, but it'll be about where does it get stored and how does it get stored in a way that can scale. So my guess is that it'd probably be throwing something into the file system and letting people deal with the fact that they need to trim the file system. But I think implementing it for HTML form entry will probably be a few lines of code at the time of submitting a form to call a serialized function and a save function.
Okay, so we don't need to have anything that keeps track of things that go awry. Basically we're just going to have this repository of JSON files, and then when something goes wrong, we'll have to figure out where in time, and then go back and find those files that are in the date range that we're looking for.
Yeah, I think in terms of expectations, what we've done in the past is with the HL7 messages, we didn't do any special logging or tracking or auditing beyond the fact that with InfoPath, the fact that it uses this document that's sitting in the file system is what saved our bacon.
Okay. This is somewhat of an aside to this conversation, but I think I'm getting pretty close to having Angular directives that do most of what HTML form entry does, probably with some more sophistication, to be honest.
Yeah, and you should be, I would love to get you kind of and Darius sharing that on the dev list, or maybe get you on a dev call to talk specifically about that with Darius. So maybe we have a topic fest pretty soon in our dev forum. The reason being is that he's done the same thing.
No, the same level that I'm working at right now. He uses it a lot more for controllers and for services, but not for directives.
Yeah, and that's where. But I think.
But I've been talking. The problem that I'm saying
is that he specifically talked about wanting to create in the very near future a Angular form entry. And which is exactly what you're talking about, and I think combining your efforts rather than him go off and do that and you have created your own would be a better outcome.
No, I agree with that 100% because I'm getting burned out myself. But the problem that I've been finding is that nobody seems to be interested in working with this Angular stuff. There's very, very few people. So not to say that I don't want to work with Darius, because obviously he's interested. But I've been surprised at how little interest I've been able to generate on the listserv. Maybe I'm not persuasive enough. But anyway.
No, that's the reality of community, is that if your expectation is that there's this swarm of people that will immediately be interested in whatever is going on, then the community is always disappointment. And it's more about being sharing that stuff so that if there is someone interested, then you get the benefit, and realizing that a lot of the time you're doing something, other people have their work and they're working on it, and it's not going to hit. But my assumption would be this is something that maybe we take the work you've done and adapt it, but we do it in a way that Darius is able to look at it and say, hey, can you do this or can you do that? And then once people start seeing it alive, then people get excited, and suddenly you can't, you got more people to deal with.
I mean, I think at the OpenMRS conference, I'm gonna hopefully do some sort of a session on Angular. I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. Because I'm kind of leaning towards going forward. I mean, I need to prove that this works, but I'm tempted to suggest not using the HTML form entry. Are you pretty strongly opposed to that? I mean, I know this is a new technology versus an established one. But what do you think?
Yeah, I guess it it depends at what level we're doing things. If we're oh man, sorry.
So let me reserve this for another time, actually,
Yeah.
Bert, because I'm going to be in Indy in the first week of January, and I'm hoping that you and I can, if you're available, spend some
Yeah.
time discussing this stuff. And
Uh,
Willa should be around as well, so he could come by. I think it would be easier just to dedicate some time in person. There's a lot of things that I wanted to I want to
yeah.
get your thoughts on.
Yeah, I agree. And we can
Yeah, JJ.
Yeah.
Actually,
about it there. We can
I think that
talk about it online. The REST-based stuff has got a lot of legs on it, and so I agree with your approach. It's just, if we were going to do like the big bang, switch all our forms, I would have more faith in HTML form entry at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, actually, so that's what I was just gonna kind of what I was gonna say. Although Angular seems promising, and I like Angular actually. I don't know a lot about it, but it's good. It's very promising, and it's really good technology. But since we don't have all those things implemented yet, and those forms are a bit complicated, I don't think if we decide to go ahead with moving first to HTML form entry, it is going to prevent us to use Angular if later on we decide to do so.
Yeah.
So
I
maybe, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, then I guess we're on the same page.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to think of. I just like when I'm in India in January. I'd really like it if we could come up with kind of a timeline for the year, of just of how we're going to approach these things.
Yeah, I think knowing where we want to be eventually will help us, make better decisions on what we do in the, where our compromises are in the short term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing, the other reason we should be doing it this way is because if we decide to do it based on Angular, we have other issues to consider. This is Angular, the way we do it in Angular, we are going to be using REST calls, which means we'll be depending heavily on the REST module. So that means the roadmap for the Angular forms will be depending on, or there will be a dependence between what the REST module can do and what you want to do with the Angular forms.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I think it would be a commitment to simultaneously taking on some responsibility for the REST module and providing, improving its functionality to map to what we would want it to do for Angular.
yeah, exactly. And that's, I think that will take some time, which means in the meantime, like we have already agreed, maybe we should stick with the HFA. And then,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we are good there, unless, Alpha, do you have anything to add maybe?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be discussing about is patient matching module. Alpha, maybe you could give us an update and whatever has been going on about that.
Oh, one last thing, Burke, in case we lose you. My demo stuff of Angular is actually now on an external IP. So you can kind of see what I've been doing, and I will send that out right now. Okay.
Or email, you mean?
Yeah, I'll just send out the IP address.
Okay.
Can we go ahead with the patient matching?
Sure.
Okay, basically, the patient matching module was not working as expected. The reason being that it was not able to create the required import table. But after debugging, I've got it to work fine on my test, my local server. It's able to create the import table and create the patients. But I'm having a problem with the reporting server and the test server, because for some reason the page for creating the report is not displayed.
Can you say that again? I'm not sure I understood.
Yeah, there was a bit of echo. I don't know whether should.
Hello?
He can't hear you. Okay. Hello? Buck, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Alpha, they can't hear you. Maybe you should come here.
Okay, let me come there.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. I've been trying to troubleshoot the patient matching module, and one of the things that we realized was that it is not working as expected. And the reason that I found out is that the spaces actually in the attributes. I think one person might have, when the attributes are being created, there are spaces at the end of the name of the attribute. So when that happens, then the patient matching module cannot run. So when I corrected that in my local instance, it worked fine. But
Is that a file? Is that a? Did you say is that a space at the end of the name of the attribute or the value?
The name of the attribute.
Okay, so it's in the metadata. Okay.
Yeah, so that is specifically I found the problem in religious affiliation. So when what I did was, before we create that table, we just trimmed the spaces off. And so that is working in my local instance, but I'm not able to view the page that would help one to run the reports in the test server or reporting server.
So is that's something that if someone is defining a patient matching algorithm using the patient matching module and they put a space at the end, the module isn't properly removing that space?
What I thought was because when you are defining the attributes, you are not typing in anything, you're just selecting like using the radio buttons. So I'm thinking that attribute might have been created wrongly in the when the attribute was being added to MRS. Because I think it just picks the attributes from the attributes table, and then you select the ones that you want to use for the matching.
Okay.
So that is the problem that I found. But the module now works fine and is able to create, at least up to the stage where it is showing you the patients with the patients who can be matched. I'm showing you see.
Okay.
So it's able to show that, but at the end, when you have like patients who are likely to match, there is a match group.
item here, I've not tested that. I don't know what should happen, but I've got to a level where I'm able to see the patients that you can match. But this is happening in my local environment, my local server. But when I go to the test server and the reporting server, I'm not getting to that page because the page that I'm supposed to use to view is taking so long to load. So that's what I'm trying to troubleshoot at the moment.
Okay, so it works.
Yeah, it works here now. But they are good this one.
But if you go to the reporting server, it's
not.
It's taking too long to load.
With this page, you can't get to it.
Mm.
But even this one, you see, I have only having like how many margins? Like 6, but it takes a few minutes to bring out.
Okay.
So probably it might be the problem with the
module.
Performance of the module.
Okay, so
any other questions?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Because if you go to,
they have questions. Huh?
Yeah, if they have any suggestions on what, then maybe back. Do you know how to debug? Like I wanted to set up a debug, like using IntelliJ to debug, like the reporting server, because when I'm able to debug on my local server, but given that now my local server is working fine, I'm trying to set it to debug the test server or the reporting server, but seems like I'm not able to connect. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, no, I've gotten debugging working locally. I haven't tried debugging against the server. There might be folks that have done that or have some suggestions on how to do that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So that's where we stand regarding the patient matching module. One last thing. Yeah, there's only one item that is remaining. That is progress on the dashboard based on the Hub0 software. Yeah. So I've been trying to install the Hub software for the implementation of the dashboard, the AMPATH dashboard. So far, I tried to use Ubuntu images. I was using Docker actually. So I tried to use Ubuntu and it gave me a lot of problems. Yesterday, the whole day, and I couldn't get it running. But today I decided to switch and use Debian images. It worked, and right now I have the image with the Hub0 software installed in it. So I can run that and explore the software, right? And after that, I'm going to go through the documentation and see how I could use the software to generate all those views we wanted. That's where I am. And actually, you can use. I'm telling you this because you can go to my account on the Docker Hub and download that image yourself and try it, in case you're interested. So it's just that.
So you've committed a version of it to the Docker Hub.
Yeah.
Can you email that out on the AMPATH dev list?
Can I what?
Can you email that out on the AMPATH dev list?
Well,
Just a link to it. I'd like to try it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Like, what the name, the link to your repository to pull and the to clone, and then the I guess whatever port is like the Docker command or whatever to get it up and running. Which port to go to once you run it.
I support. Okay, because I'm not very. I don't have much knowledge about Docker. Basically, what I did is I just started the container, and then I installed the hub, and then Docker assigned some IP address automatically. I don't know how it does that magically. So in my local system, when I just access that using on the browser, I just type in the IP using the local port, the port number 80, and then I just get the system up and running. So I didn't do anything on that.
Yeah. In Docker, in your Docker file, you specify port to expose, and then inside the image, you whatever service you set up, you service that, at that port. What Docker allows you to do then is when you run it, you can decide which, what port you want that to be on your host. So anyway, if you share the image, I might be able to help point you to some Docker commands.
Okay, fine. I was just trying to get the hub first on the Docker container. I wasn't worried about how I'm going to set up the port and all that stuff. So the image right now is just basic. And if I'm going to have to put some IP or specifying ports, yeah, I guess I could do that. But right now, I think you can just pull that image and then start it. And obviously, you can inspect it and see the IP. If you get the IP, you can easily put it in the URL and then access it from the PPT. That's it. You get it.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it's as simple as that. But yeah, another thing I think you must still get if you just search, if you say Docker search and then you put the hub 0, for instance, you just get, I think there are just 2 images there. Mine and some other guy, he put some hub 0 in there. So you will see. Mine is Wheeler/hub 0 Debian and some other blah blah blah. But it's easy to get it. But anyway, I'll email it. So that was just for the information, and that's it from me. Any other thing, Alfayo?
No, thank you.
Okay, JJ?
No, I don't have anything to add. I mean, I think, are we planning to talk about like priorities tomorrow, or is this not that realistic?
Priorities. Which ones? There are different sets of priorities.
I know.
Maybe we should prioritize our priorities.
I like it.
All right.
I just, there's a lot of discussion going on right now about dropping AMRS sites, and I don't know what the thing will be. It's not clear to me how this is going to happen, or when decisions will actually be made. I mean, as things generally go around here, they start off with momentum and then they gradually die. So we'll see. But the question is what's the thing that we think is important to? I guess the first question would be do we want to try and avoid that? And then the next question is if we do, what's the right thing to get people believing in the AMRS again? So on the one hand, we're doing this, Willie, you're working on the dashboard, and maybe that's the answer. The other idea is trying to figure out a way of getting point-of-care systems in place, which would start with just getting some HTML form entry being done at the peripheral sites. The idea is, having them run their local servers and I don't know what, but somehow synchronizing with central.
Yeah, I think the idea of having multiple servers and synchronizing them is I think a good long-term strategy, but not something that I think we could create a lot more disappointment rather than excitement by trying to roll out some solution that we could give people maybe an instant high by giving them a local server, but then there would be a tragic low following that when we had no way to coordinate all the data that was going in, and we had a big mess of data that we couldn't get coordinated. So I think your notion of saying, well, let's leverage REST, let's leverage ways to communicate to the central server for point of care, looking for low-hanging fruit, so not trying to necessarily make the ultimate or even maybe the the best, form, like the form you'd like to do most, but look rather at what would be the form technically that would give people a taste of what's possible, but technically would be low-hanging fruit for us. Because I think you're right that and I think Will is correct that we have different priorities, and the truth is that doing point of care and not having any way for them to see the data, or doing giving them reporting without doing anything with point of care, are probably we might make some people happy and not others. So I think the notion the path we're going of saying getting a server, let's load data on it and use whatever ETL tools, whether you want to set up with something with Jenga, the dashboard gives the taste, and giving folks.
I can't hear anything that you're saying. I don't know about the other guys.
Yeah, I can't
Sorry. If there's anything I can do to improve.
It might be my control. I'm going to switch to my modem.
No, I don't think it's your modem, Jonathan. I think it's Bart. Yeah, you're breaking up, Bart. It's a connection. Is it a connection or what's going on? Do we have to switch and then the control of this meeting? JJ, can you hear me?
I can hear you well, but it looks like Burke dropped off.
Yeah, it was Burke, I think. It's not our connection. Our connection is good. Super fast internet connection, like in California, isn't it? Okay, so I'm not sure if it's gonna get back on this call.
I mean, my underlying question, Will, is that given that we have you and Alfio and that's it, the question that I have is, should we be moving all of those resources to one thing or the other? Because and the kind of the backstop to this is that I'm not convinced that the Hub Zero stuff is going to be short-term gain. I don't think that we know what we're visualizing well enough to know that it's going to impress anybody. And I actually think that point of care has a lot more opportunity to demonstrate value. But I'm not wedded. I just think that that's the case. I know it's important to Martin, so I, of course would want to hear what he has to say. But I'm not convinced that anybody's going to use the dashboard once you create it.
Okay.
I'm the only one that's really interested in it.
You think so? You might be surprised.
Honestly, I really don't think anybody's going to use it.
You might be surprised. The dashboard is really cool. Look, if we can get
that I agree with. It's not that I disagree. I just don't think that there's an operationalization that's present right now for using data. There's a whole other sequence of steps that has to be created that for managers to start learning how to use this information. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you completely. But I think, yeah, you're right in a way that we have to. I think what we're trying to say is we have to choose whether we're going to do the POC or whether we should stick with the Hub Zero software, with the dashboard, right?
Just as long as it's just you and Alfio, I just, even the patient matching, I don't think is, I don't even know how much of that of a priority that is. I mean, again, part of this is like, how long does it take to fix these things? If we can get patient matching fixed in a week, then fine. But like over the next, 3 months, it'd be nice to say that by the end of February we have this in place, and this being either a dashboard that's going to really blow the everybody out of the water, or a point of care system that's going, and they're like, wow, like informatics is finally like giving us something that we can actually use.
Yeah. Okay, back is back. Back is back. Nice. Is it back is back? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Jonathan,
Can you hear?
I
Can
agree
you
with
hear
you.
me?
Yeah.
We can hear you back.
So I'm gonna have to run. I'm gonna have to get in this other meeting. I just wanted to make the point. What I agree with what um, was being said in terms of Jonathan saying that we need to get point of care, but I think we also need to get. I mean, really, we need to satisfy two parties. We need to satisfy the administrators with a taste of data warehousing, and we need to satisfy providers with a taste of being able to get their hands on entering data. And so looking for the low-hanging fruit in both of those, setting our goals, our expectations, not on what we think is right, but what we think we can do relatively quickly, technically, and will give people a taste, some promise of what can come.
I'm concerned. I was just saying to Willa Burke that I'm concerned that this notion of a dashboard is really like of interest to me. At least in terms of people on the ground here. I'm very wary that anybody's.
Really? I got that sense. I think creating I got the sense that when you show people what you were able to do, they got very excited. I heard that from other folks that weren't you. So
No, I think it's not so much that. I just think operationally, there's no way to. It's not that there's no way. The things that we need in place to use it are not present right now.
What do you mean, Jonathan? What do you mean? What do you mean the things we need are not in place right now?
I mean, who's going to consume that information?
Well, see, the thing is, from my understanding, is at the sites they'll be very interested to be able to see data if they can do it, and especially the kind of reports that you can produce on the dashboard. Did you take a look at the dashboard?
No, I'd love to see it.
Oh, okay. Then you should see it first before you give an opinion. It's really,
it's basically a PHP tool to treat the database like spreadsheets and quickly throw together tables of interest. And so it's just a relatively quick and dirty but relatively easy for people to understand tool for just answering some specific questions. So I think the thought is that if we can dump a copy of the data into that server and run a tool like this where in an afternoon someone can answer a basic question similar to kind of what you did with the loss to follow-up.
Yeah.
We wouldn't try to be the solution for everybody. We would just say, okay, let's take the easiest questions that are the highest priority for leadership, or just to show, or more, as Willis said, aim toward what are a report or two that we could do relatively easy that would be a big deal for implementation to get online and be able to see that report.
I don't mean to be the one that's saying that I want to do this. It's just that I feel like I want to have a clear definition of what we're going to produce and how much time we're going to spend on it, because this stuff, has infinite possibilities, and I know very well that the more I play with it, the more I like playing with it. And the problem that I see with data analysis here is that people don't know what they want to know until that moment comes that they want to know something. So, today they'll be like, oh, tell me how many patients are on ARVs and have unsuppressed viral loads.
Yeah.
You tell them, then they won't talk to you for 3 months. And then suddenly they'll be like, oh, I got to know, how many newborns were tested for HIV in the past 18 months. And you're just like... And so that's what I'm worried about with like the lack of definition of these ETL tools, because there really is not, other than me.
Yeah. I would look at it as one, satisfying what you need in terms of like doing the loss to follow-up stuff, if you're still doing that, and the other would be, I think a useful first target would be what could we do that implementations, those sites that are at risk of being lost, would say, oh, yesterday AMREST was nothing to us. Now we can go to this website.
No, but it's not the sites that are choosing. It's the central management that's making the decision.
Yeah, that's because, Jonathan, that's because people don't have access to the system to do that. The thing is, the way I understand it is, if you give people the basic system which they can access and get some information, next time they'll tell you, okay, you know what, now we can get this. Maybe we should get this. But now they don't have access to anything, then how can they make any demand?
Yeah, but Jonathan, I just want to say I totally agree with your sentiment, and I agree. Unfortunately, I've got to go into this meeting, but we need to answer your question. And if we can't answer your question satisfactorily, then we shouldn't be. We need to rethink what we're doing. And so it's not a matter of whether we can convince ourselves that there's something useful. I think we need to figure out what we technically can do with the resources we have, and that will match something that there will be someone saying, yes, that matters to me, and it's not just one of these fly-by. I agree with you, the notion that we're gonna, what does someone want to know this week or this month? But we need to be looking at, is there something that would be useful as a monthly report or something, or a weekly, or a daily census thing?
It's just the flip side of this is that with Willa working on this, he's not working on point of care.
Yep.
That's, and then there's and then Alfio, and then that's it.
Yep. Agreed.
And so anyway, I think I think we're something to be continued to be discussed, but we really need to figure out what we want to accomplish over the next few months, and then put everything we have towards making that possible.
Agree. 100%. Yeah. Right, sorry guys, I have to drop off. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Buck.
Hey Willa, where is the Hub Zero stuff? Can I pull it up from where I am?
Yeah, you can. If you want to do, it's a Docker image, so you can put the Docker image and see. Actually, you don't even have to do that. You can go to. You don't have an account there. You can't see anything on that thing. Anyway, there are multiple places you can find that. One of them is called ccehub.org. You'll find resources there. We have our resource. There's an AMPATH resource in there, but you don't have access to it unless you have an account and you are granted access to that particular resource. So if you want, I think we can look into a way of giving you access to that particular resource, the AMPATH one, and then you can explore and see what has been done. It's not much, but something that you can,
No, I'd love to see it. So how do I get that access? Who do I use?
Yeah, can you see your chat window?
Yes. No, hold on.
Oh, yeah, I'll just send you through the Hangout. So go to ccehub.org.
Okay, I'm there.
Yeah, so if you had an account, you would have logged in.
Yes.
And once you log in, you might be, if you're a user, you might be granted access to different resources which are hosted on this particular hub. This hub is running Hub Zero software on the background. So that's what we need to replicate on one of our servers. On that ETL server, we just got a few weeks ago, I don't know, a few days ago, I guess. And then if you had the access, if you had an account, then you could have access to one of the resources on this server is the AMPATH dashboard.
I get it, but Willa, how do I get an account? Who do I ask?
So you need to have an account, so you have to register.
I have registered. I registered when we first found out about this.
You are registered?
I'm pretty sure let's see.
Yeah, if you're registered, then you can easily get access to that account. To that resource, the AMPATH resource. Okay, let me try. I think I can just share my screen. Let me share my screen with you. Let me try to get in there and then share the screen with you.
My account has been blocked. I'm going to create a new one.
Okay, let me see. Maybe mine is blocked too. Well, that's not our server. So in this case, they might be saying, okay, you know what? These cases are no longer useful. Just block them. Hmm? And now, which one is it? I don't even remember which one is it. This is crazy. What is this? Hmm. It doesn't work. So, this password. Hmm. Okay, I think I have a problem with my password. I don't remember it. This is login information. Why is it telling me?
It wants you to change the password.
I clicked. Instead of login, I clicked register. That's how I was wondering what's going on.
All right, so I have my account. Is there somebody that I send an email to request my resource?
Yeah, that should be Anne. Christine Anne, the lady we were talking to regarding the things. Okay, so anyway, that's suggested data sheet. It's not very useful. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna share my screen with you.
Okay, great.
Oh, share it. Yeah. Okay, see control. Control. There. Share. So you see that thing there?
1 second, let me just finish sending this one to get access to the AMPATH source. All right, yeah, I see. Cool.
Yeah, so this is based on the pre-ART register. So basically, what they did is they took that spreadsheet and dump it into some table in the database, and then put it using this. I think this is a jQuery table or something. So you have this, and apart from this, you have things like filtering. You can do filtering here. For example, here we have sites. If I had different clinical names, as you can see, you could just fill in the name and then get the result for that particular site.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do all this kind of filtering there, and then this is very simplistic one. Like this is the one you get the basic one where you don't define anything. You just dump in the information and then you pull them using this basic view, and this is what you get. So apart from this, you can have the pie charts, you can have derived views, you can have other things that are different. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so you see, if you okay, are you seeing this? Maybe you're not seeing it.
I'm seeing it.
No, okay, you're seeing it. Okay. Yeah. So if you look at this, for example, there's a comprehensive care clinic summary, analytics, and comparison dashboard. Now, this is Anne created some of this out of her imagination. She just thought, okay, you know what? Based on her experience, she thought maybe people would be interested to know the data based on the sex, the age groups. You can see it there, the who stage. So you can have these kind of things.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know yet. But I think it shouldn't be difficult. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go through the documentation and see what the kind of options I have and how do I derive all these kind of views. But basically, she did this in one day, so you can imagine it shouldn't be difficult. She just said this spreadsheet.
I mean, that's because the hard work is putting the data set together. Once you do that, it's just defining columns and associating, some sort of a query with it.
Yeah, but we do have the data set, don't we?
Well, not exactly. I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't take a day to create the data sets. I mean, we have those queries. At least you created those queries.
I need you to. I'll try and come up with good ways to demonstrate this, but I'm very skeptical that we have a way of operationalizing this information. other than the one thing that we can operationalize is the MOH 730 and 701 reports, and we actually don't have the data sets for those right now.
Yeah, we don't.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that would be something that would be of immediate use. But in terms of just looking for interesting facts about clinical care, it's going to fall on very deaf ears.
You think so?
I'm every part of my experience to date has taught me that.
Okay.
You need the data first,
Yeah.
and then it needs to be supported by a plan of action.
Okay.
Handing people information and telling them that it's interesting and that they should do something about it, you can be certain that nothing will get done. And I think that there's a heavy belief, there's this trust that we have in our clinicians that they do with information, and most of my experience has taught me that they don't. They know how to take care of people in front of them. And the rest is going to be something that they'll have to be trained on.
Yeah. So as much as I agree with you, I think we should also consider other things here, because look, we've been doing this and I've been working on this, and it's something that we sometimes back we decided, okay, you know what, we need to create this thing because we feel that it is needed. And the reason we want this is because we will give, see, the reason we want to have the point of care, like one of the reasons is to give people access to the system. And if we have this online, yeah, well, maybe most people won't be able to use it, but they'll be having access to the data, which is stored at the central server, which is a plus. That means people, yeah, they can create although we just have the dashboard right now, and maybe you can, like what Buck was saying, we can decide, okay, we are going to create these particular views, these few views, because we think they are more useful and they are the ones that people need. Yeah. And then we give them those, which will give the illusion, not illusion per se, it's just kind of, it's not really real time, but the people will have access to the system and be able to see information they have been submitting in the system. Right now, they don't have that, but if you just give them that, that is a step forward. So instead of us backtracking again and saying, you know what, let's just scrap this and let's stick with the POC. POC is good, and I agree with you. It's nice, and maybe you don't have resources to do both at the same time, but still, the dashboard is also needed.
No, that's why I was saying that I think we need to have a very, very well-defined plan of what we want to do with this, and then finish that, and then put it to bed until there's more resources available to extend how we might use this information. But and I'm not saying that we have to do point of care. The point of care to me solves a few issues. One is that we have a financial issue right now with cutting resources. If we can start doing point of care in the clinic, we'd have to think about it. But we hopefully would be able to preserve our use of AMRS in more sites. Two, I think that the quality of our data will improve. And three, that means that the reporting will improve, as well as our ability to deliver reports timely. So that's the reason why I think point of care is a good place to centralize our efforts, because everything else will derive from it. But I'm not ignorant of the fact that, like, point of care has its own challenges. It's not like we can just roll out a point of care system and boom, like everybody will just be working on it flawlessly. There's a lot of things to think about it. My concern with the dashboard stuff is that I love it. I mean, that's why I'm like, you don't have to convince me of its importance. The problem is that the one person who was really asking for this was Batuka. And he's not going to use the information. I guarantee you that the next thing that he'll just say to you or us or AMPATH is, okay, I'm glad you made that, now use it. And then we're going to be like, we don't know how to use it.
Okay. Okay, Jonathan, I think you're making very interesting points. So, yeah, considering the fact that we don't have enough resources to embark on all these other things, right now we are kind of distracted. It's not really distraction, but it's kind of distraction because we have all these multiple things all going on at the same time.
Yeah.
We have the patient module, we have the dashboard, we have that. Yeah, well, we will need to have this discussion with you, I think with Martin and Buck. Maybe you should do it tomorrow. And if you can decide, okay, let's stick with the POC and without caring what other top guys are thinking. I mean, if Batuka wants the dashboard and we just decide to disregard that, I don't know what is the implication.
Well, I think what the realistic conclusion is going to be, you've already done a lot of work on it and it looks good. Let's just very specifically come up with an outcome that we think we can get done by the end of the year, let's say. And then starting January 1, we start focusing on point of care. Or conversely, if I'm outvoted, I respect that. It might be, oh, you know what, we're not going to do any point of care. All we're going to do is this Hub Zero stuff and see where it takes us. But I want us to have some clarity of what we want to produce and when we want to produce it. Because if you think about it, it's been some time, and for the most part, we're really in a responsive mode, which is that something happens and then we try and deal with it. And I think between you and me, we can shift that from a purely crisis-driven informatics program to one that's really innovating and trying to do things that are moving things forward rather than just keeping them alive.
So that's why, actually, that's one of the reasons I was trying to do the hub. And because I was thinking, it might not be realistic, but based on what Anne was capable of doing in those few days, I was thinking I could be able to produce something by the end of this year. And that's why I said, okay, let me stick with this and see where.
100%.
Yeah.
I really do think you're doing good stuff, and I think this stuff looks cool. So we'll discuss it more. But let's plan to have something finished, and we'll put it on we'll try it out. We'll see what happens. But we should focus your time on. I mean, personally, I think it should be on point of care. But if not, then fine. But we'll have a discussion about it.
All right. Okay. I think we're done. Unless you have something else.
No, that's it.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.